Some choices do not destroy your life all at once. They do it quietly. They stay inside your chest for months, sometimes years, waiting for the day you finally understand what you lost. For me, it was a letter, a small white envelope with my name written in her careful handwriting. I kept it hidden in the bottom drawer of my desk for 2 years. I never opened it. Not because I did not care, because I cared too much. And I was afraid that whatever was inside would confirm the truth I was too weak to face, that I had already lost her. Her name was Elara. We met in the most ordinary way. No dramatic music, no perfect movie moment, just a rainy Monday morning at a small neighborhood bookstore where I worked after college. She walked in carrying a broken umbrella and smiling as if the weather had failed to ruin her day. That was the first thing I noticed about her. She made hard things feel lighter. She laughed easily, spoke kindly, and listened as if every word mattered. At first, she was just a regular customer. Then she became someone who stayed a little longer. She would come in after work, pretend to browse the shelves, and somehow end up at the counter talking to me for 20 minutes about books, music, old memories, and dreams she had not told anyone else. Soon, those 20 minutes became the best part of my day. Then they became the reason I looked at the door every evening. And before I knew it, she had become the first person on my mind in the morning and the last one I thought about at night. I wish I could tell you I was brave. I was not. I was the kind of man who felt everything deeply and said nothing clearly. So I hid behind friendship. I learned her coffee order. I remembered the names of her two younger sisters. I knew when her smile was real and when it was only there to protect everyone else from her sadness. And somehow, the closer we became, the harder it felt to tell her the truth. Because once you love someone in silence for too long, silence starts to feel safer than honesty. Honesty can change everything. Silence lets you keep the person, just not in the way you truly want. Months passed, then a year, then more. People around us noticed things I kept trying to deny. They asked if we were together. They smiled when we arrived somewhere side by side. Even strangers assumed there was something between us. And every time that happened, Elara would laugh softly and look at me for half a second longer than normal. That half second haunted me, because it always made me wonder, what if she was waiting? But fear has a cruel way of sounding reasonable. It tells you not to risk a beautiful friendship. It tells you that silence is mature. It tells you that protecting your heart is wiser than exposing it. What it never tells you is how expensive that silence becomes later. One autumn evening, Elara asked me to meet her in the bookstore after closing. I still remember how the place smelled that night. Dust, paper, coffee, and rain. The lights were dim. The street outside was wet and shining. The whole world felt strangely still. She stood beside the poetry section, holding a white envelope. I knew instantly that something was wrong. Her smile was there, but it was tired. The kind of smile people wear when they're trying not to break in front of someone important. She told me she had accepted a design job in another country. Not another city, another country. She would be leaving in 10 days. I said the things a good friend is supposed to say. I congratulated her. I told her I was proud of her. I told her she deserved it. And with every word, it felt like I was helping pack away the future I had secretly imagined with her. Then she handed me the envelope. She said, "Read this after I leave." I should have said something then, anything. Stay, I love you. Do not go, choose me, fight for us. But all I did was stare at that letter like it was heavier than paper should be. And then I nodded. That was my final act of cowardice. 10 days later, I watched her leave. No dramatic confession, no last-minute airport scene, no miracle. Just a quiet goodbye filled with everything I could not say. When she hugged me, she held on for a second longer than usual, and I almost broke. Almost. But almost does not change lives. Action does. So she left, and I stayed. I stayed in the same town, in the same bookstore, with the same routines, but nothing felt the same anymore. Every shelf reminded me of her. Every corner carried her laughter. I told myself I would open the letter when I was ready. But ready never came. Days turned into months. Months turned into 2 years. I laughed less. I worked more. And that envelope remained hidden in my desk like a question I was too afraid to answer. Then one winter afternoon, everything changed. An older man came into the bookstore looking for a book his wife used to love. He told me she had passed away 3 months earlier. While I wrapped the book for him, he looked at me and said something I still carry in my heart. He said, "The worst pain is not losing someone. The worst pain is all the love you never gave them while you had the chance." I do not know why those words hit me so hard. Maybe because deep down, I knew he was talking about me. That night, after closing the store, I went home, sat at my desk, opened the bottom drawer, and took out the envelope with shaking hands. 2 years of fear, 2 years of wondering, 2 years of letting one unopened letter control my life. I broke the seal slowly. Inside was a folded page and a photograph. The photo was of us standing outside the bookstore on a rainy day, both laughing, both soaked, both looking happier than either of us realized at the time. My hands were trembling before I even started reading. The first line said, "If you're reading this, then I was not brave enough to say it out loud either." I stopped breathing. I read it again, then again. She wrote that she had loved me for a long time. She wrote that every time people asked if we were together, a part of her wished I would answer for both of us. She wrote that she was leaving, not only for the job, but because staying near me and pretending friendship was becoming too painful. And then came the line that shattered me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I imagined everything. But if I am not, then I hope one day you find the courage that I could not. I cannot describe what I felt in that moment. Regret, relief, grief, hope, punishment, mercy, all at once. For 2 years, I believed the letter would give me closure. Instead, it gave me a second chance. I did not sleep that night. By sunrise, I had made my decision. For the first time in years, I was done being passive in my own life. I searched for her online, found the company where she worked, sent emails, made calls, and probably looked ridiculous doing it. By the end of the day, I had one piece of information. She was back in the country for a short visit to see her family. I drove 3 hours that same evening. The whole way there, I kept rehearsing what I would say. But this time, I knew something important. Perfect words were not the goal. Honest words were. When I reached her parents' house, the lights inside were warm, and snow was falling so softly it almost looked unreal. I stood at the door with my heart pounding harder than it ever had before. Then I knocked. Her younger sister opened the door first. She recognized me instantly and stepped aside. Elara was standing in the hallway. For a moment, neither of us moved. 2 years disappeared in one breath. She looked shocked, then careful, then emotional in the quietest way. I told her I had read the letter. I told her I should have read it sooner. I told her I should have spoken even sooner than that. And then, before fear could interrupt me again, I said the words that had been waiting inside me for far too long. I loved you then. I love you now. and I'm done letting fear make decisions for me. She covered her mouth with one hand. Tears filled her eyes so quickly that I felt my own break free too. For one terrible second, I thought maybe I was still too late. Then she laughed through her tears and said, "Do you have any idea how long I waited to hear that?" It felt like my whole life had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. She told me she had tried to move on. She told me she had even convinced herself that the letter was a mistake. She told me that seeing me at the door felt unreal. Then she stepped closer, looked directly into my eyes, and said the words I had needed for years. "You were never the wrong person. You were just late." Late. Not lost, not impossible, not over. Just late. And somehow, that was enough. Love did not magically make everything easy after that. We still had distance to figure out, old hurt to talk through, time to rebuild. But this time, we were not hiding from the truth. We were finally standing inside it. Together. Today, when I think about that unopened letter, I do not only think about regret, I think about mercy. Because life does not always give people a second chance. But sometimes, if your heart is still honest and your courage finally catches up with your feelings, it does. So if you are carrying words you have been afraid to say, if you are waiting for the perfect time, if you keep telling yourself, maybe tomorrow, please learn from me. Tomorrow is a dangerous promise. Sometimes the letter waits. Sometimes the person does not. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment with the words, "Say it before it's late." And if there is someone in your life you truly care about, maybe this is your sign not to let silence speak for you again. Because the heaviest things in life are not always the things we said. Sometimes they are the things we never did.